Welcome to the show today. Today I got Olga Miler on the show, and she's an innovation architect, having worked for different blue chip companies like PwC, Nestle and UBS, and she's also very passionate about gender equality. And I want to dive into your story today. I'm very excited to have you on the show, and let's just get right started. So maybe can you tell me about maybe one or two moments of your life that really shaped you as a person, as a leader?
So I think the first thing that shaped me as a leader is my mom. I come from a very entrepreneurial family, and my mom, today 70, is still an active entrepreneur and independent. And so that shaped sort of my ability that everything is possible and that one just has to be super persistent. Other than that, I think it's the journey that shapes you as a leader. The successes and the failures that you go through that let you emerge, hopefully, in a more confident person. And I think for me, if there was one revealing moment that you would want to see, it was when I won this, the rocket. I got this in 2014, I think, actually totally unexpected, participating in UBS Internal Innovation Challenge. And what this rocket did to me was not that much receiving the prize, but for me, it's kind of the symbol that one just has to try. And that one has to be persistent, and sometimes opportunities come from very unexpected places. So this rocket opened for me a whole new world of how innovation is being done today, because it was my ticket to enter into the UBS Innovation Lab, where I got in touch with crazy people, but very good crazy, with startups, with people that were trying to make the world a better place in whatever shape or form, and with an enormous challenge where basically they said, well, your idea won this challenge. Here is a book, and here is rocket, and go and fundraise for it. And for me, that opened a whole new world. So I think that probably shaped me the most, being who I am today. My mom and this innovation challenge.
I love that. It also kind of like goes in the second question, like about the people that really shaped you. Obviously, definitely your mom. Maybe you can tell one or two more sentences about that. Like, why did your mom shape you as a person?
Because she would always believe in me. She would believe in whatever crazy idea I would have, that it is actually possible. I funded my first company when I was 17. It was a company that would do fitness training and teach young girls and boys how to dance hip hop on the street, because at that point in time, we all were going with Vanilla Ice and kind of the scooter thingies, right? So I decided that maybe this would be a good thing to do for young kids, to spend their time rather than sitting outside and smoking. And, in order to teach, you need a set of mirrors, right? And mirrors at that point in time costed 2,500 Swiss francs. And so I was 17, I didn't have 2,500. So I kind of had to go and fundraise with my mom. And I say, I need these mirrors. So finally she helped me. And I think this shaped me in the sense of that you need somebody who very strongly believes in you as a person and believes in you in the idea you have. And then maybe to your question, looking at, all the folks that executed all of this for me as part of my career, it always was very strong, passionate leaders that would do exactly what my mom did, believe in me as a person, and then adding this grain of support that you need when you want to start something new. And interestingly, because I studied in a university in St. Gallen where they are 15% women, and then I always worked in an industry where they were like 20% women maybe, it was very strong men helping to shape every venture. And I'm incredibly grateful to each and every one of them. Very fortunate that each and every one of my bosses was very different personalities and coming to me at the right point in my life and my career to give me wings. And so now, being a little bit more matured in everything that I do, I hope that I can pass this spirit forward. And that sort of drives my passion to do what I do beyond any day job, to help young people, to help young women, to help anybody who has a crazy idea that actually makes the world a better place. And me hopefully being in the position that I can either add resources or motivation or this grain of spirit to say, yes, you can do this.
I love how you already dive into the passion there. And on one point, like I want to stick there for a second and also go into this innovation architecture. So, you're an innovation architect and you've been part of three very big companies. And you know, doing that requires a certain mindset, certain skill set. But what is it that got you from one big company to another, and being an innovation architect in an established large company, sometimes a very old industry as well, and in a very established and very structured organization? Like, what is it that excites you about doing innovation architecture in a bigger framework?
Okay, so this is like three questions in one. Let me try. First and foremost, what got me from one company to another? I never applied for a job ever in my life. It was work and passionate people that got me from one place to another. So people would come and they would say, don't you want to try this? Or we have an opportunity here. And it was actually only at the age of 34 where I figured out that what I really can do well is to drive or develop new ideas and also get them implemented into execution. And that was kind of a revealing moment as well, because before that time, before I realized this, I was kind of always felt a little bit misplaced in every job I did. So I kind of had a day job, and then I had all this portfolio of stuff around me that would be ancillary projects. Until my husband at one point, when I was kind of at home crying, said, Olga, you should just consider that basically what you're doing is what you are really good at, which is to give new idea wings. And then when I realized this is where I really could start and thrive on who I am. So I kind of found my purpose with this very simple statement. And so to your second question, what drives me to do this in large-scale corporates? I think large-scale corporates have an enormous opportunity. It is an enormous challenge, but you have a lot of resources. You can scale very, very quickly on what you are doing. And there is a lot of know-how. And so combined with the fact that I seem to have this ability of not only developing an idea, but also doing it, getting it to scale, combined with the resources and combined with the acceleration effect it can have, this just keeps me motivated. And you might ask, why the financial services industry, right? Why does somebody like me wearing colorful clothing and getting a kick out of rockets actually work in the financial services industry and tries to make a change there? It is a very intrinsic motivation. I believe that people's relationship to money and what we do with money is one of the most powerful votes we have as a person in order to change whatever we want to change on the planet. And so it is my absolute desire to empower young people, women, basically everyone, to use the tools of the financial services industry to be the best person they want and can be in life. And so I look at money not like a product, but actually as a means to allow you to do something great in life. And that is what kept me in the financial services industry for more than 10 years now, this passion.
This is amazing. I mean, it's always inspiring for me to see entrepreneurs like you in big corporations. And the reason is because very often these worlds are very separated, and the real magic only happens when you bring certain things together, in the essence, together, and that's what I find so interesting. And, what you said there, giving new ideas wings, I mean, that is at the essence such a powerful thing. And, once you understand that real driver there, there's literally nothing that can stop you in the world, and that is an absolutely beautiful thing. Now maybe we can dive a little bit into another story. I'd like to understand a bit what you learned along the way. There's probably been some interesting stories of failures and successes where you learned quite a bit. Is there one or two things that stand out, one or two stories that you can maybe share where the learnings made a real difference for you?
So I think I learned two big things throughout all the ventures that I did. One is to look at failure, not as failure, but look at it as feedback that makes you progress. Because if you look at it as feedback and you carry the inner conviction that whatever you're trying to achieve or to change or to innovate or to build actually has a purpose, then you actually will be grateful. Maybe your venture takes a completely different path, but to pivot something is not necessarily bad. It is just an evolution. The second thing I learned is, and I will use a quote from Billie Jean King, the tennis player, because I think it is absolutely beautiful what she said at an event. She said, to win a match, 98% is being there. Show up, being present. And I think usually you look at the whole innovation process, the idea is something between 10 to 15%. The rest of it is being there, being present, and execution. And so my advice or my big mantra from this is that you need both parts. You need to understand why you believe in the idea, and the why needs to be well-founded in, is it something that motivates you personally and advances you as a person? Is it something that might bring more business? Or is it something that has a broader impact on the planet? Or is it all three of them? But if you understand the why, then it will give you the stamina and the strength to actually carry out the how, and carry out the how with persistence. And then failure will not be failure. It will be feedback that makes you grow.
I love that.
That's what I have learned. These are these two big things. And then, if you want to know, have I failed with something that received so much feedback that it couldn't exist anymore? Well, yes, of course. I funded a venture when I was 27, coming back from Brazil, again in this fitness space. And somehow I totally underestimated the amount of capital it would take at the time. It was like for years. So, struggled with it for 5 years until I sort of had to acknowledge that I will never be able to make a good living on that. Would I miss this in my life? No, not for a bit, because I learned a lot about a new industry and about myself and about personal fitness. Would I repeat this adventure? Probably not. Have there been projects in the larger scale corporates where you go and say, you know what, we could have done this better, we could have done it faster? Of course, they have been. Many of them. I think as long as you look at this as a conscious process, well, then you learn from it and you carry on. Has any of this ever discouraged me? No, not at all. Actually, from each piece of failure, I return more determined and more passionate than from a success. Because you go and say, you know what? I know why I'm doing this. And I think the world needs it urgently and now. And so I'm going to find another path. And you discover new opportunities. It was a beautiful one, which is not my own failure, but maybe I want to share it as an example. There were guys that tried to do a large-scale event here in Switzerland, and they were fundraising for the event, and I was trying to help them to kind of find the money one way or the other. And it proved to be incredibly difficult. The event was meant to be giant, 1,000 people, large-scale undertaking. And they couldn't find the money. So in the end, what they decided to do is to run a global 2 days event all through remote communication, video and digital. And basically with that, this had never been done before. They invented a whole new format of how such a thing can be done. And I think this actually shows, if you are persistent enough, a new opportunity will come out of something that might not seem to be going as straightforward. Just giving up is not an option.
What I love about this last story is also what you shared in the beginning, like, about execution, because if they would have never started with the physical event and pursue that and find it and basically fail with this approach, probably the global digital one would have never have come out. It could maybe only come out because the other one didn't work. But that was required for this to be able to be birthed.
Yeah, exactly. But because they were so determined not to give up and so clear about the purpose on why they are doing this, it led them to having the stamina to reinvent and pivot it and then emerge with something new. And I think when I coach startups or also young entrepreneurs, one of the things is very important, that it is okay if the idea pivots for a very, very good reason. And one has to be open to this, because maybe something even more exciting and more successful will come out of it. In the end, the majority of ideas fail, not because the idea is not great, but they fail because there is no market for them. Because people kind of sit there and say, yeah, I need to do this, and they don't get enough feedback to understand whether somebody wants to buy whatever you are building. So once you get this feedback and it leads you to a very different conclusion, because customers want something different, or users want something different, or the process needs to be adapted, or the corporate needs something very different at that point in time, having the openness to acknowledge that, to inherit this and say, I give this a different spin, is probably one of the keys to drive successful innovation. It is a spiral, not a linear path.
I love that. I mean, it's just, look at every, or pretty much most companies that we know of now, they didn't start that way. They started ways different, and they adjusted along the way, because when you start something new, you really have no freaking idea what's going to work, what's not going to work, you just have no idea. You just got to test and try and change until, it's actually, it's there. So this is very interesting. Now, another topic is, I want to talk about is leadership. And leadership in terms of the way I look at this, what I'm really curious about is, how do you sustain being an innovation architect in a large company? And how do you sustain that success of creating things and pulling through and doing fundraising and getting management buy-in and everything that comes with it of being an intrapreneur, I guess? How do you sustain that? How do you balance that? What do you do? Do you have some sort of a mantra around that?
Look, it's my personal passion. I only engage in something if I really believe in it. And that comes with these 3 criteria I mentioned before, right? Either it's good for the business, in the best case, it's also good for the planet, or it is a personal passion that you say, I'm going to do this because it allows me to acquire knowledge, or it allows me to make an experience I otherwise wouldn't do. And it is this intrinsic belief, when I understand the why, that allows me to go across all the hurdles. Now, are there points in all of this where you go like, what, oh, Jesus, not again, and you run out of strength? Yes, and of course they are. And I think everybody who either is building a company or is trying to build a project in a company has these moments. Because to innovate can be a very, very lonely place. It can feel exorbitantly lonely because you constantly push against the standard boundaries. And there I do get my strength from very unusual sources. From the people around me, but from a network of people that is very different and not corporate at all. From my kids, from my friends that work in completely different areas. And sometimes just bouncing something off somebody and say, I'm doing this. And maybe the person is a writer or is, an artist. And asking them, how do you see this, gives you such a different viewpoint that, it gives the strength to overcome these moments. So for me, is twofold: understanding the purpose, and then having a support infrastructure that has nothing to do with the corporate. And then obviously, yes, having a large network that is corporate, where the faster routes, how you could get something approved, or your ways in an organization, or people that can help you to accelerate. It is very, very helpful, but it is not what will make these lonely moments overcome. I think these lonely moments really are overcome when you believe in what you are doing and why you are doing it. And that is very interesting, because many people ask me and say, so for this and this, what did you do? I always get this question: what did you do? How did you do it? How did this tool develop? Or how did this woman program develop? Or how did, I don't know, something else develop? And very rarely people ask me why. And that's kind of striking, because for me, it starts there. So stress testing that you really are engaged and believe in an idea, I think is probably something that might be very helpful, because again, it helps you to keep sanity. And then take everything with a pinch of salt and humor. No, it's not a serious planet. It should be a planet of joy. We all should be enjoying what we are doing. And yeah, I know this sounds stupid now. People say this lady is totally crazy. But quite frankly, yes, there should be fun and passion in what we do. I spent 18 hours a day working, and it never felt like work to me. If it starts feeling like work, I'm in the wrong job. I have to change this.
I love this viewpoint, and it's very interesting. And it's not, you're not crazy. You're not the only one saying this. I mean, I talk to people every day, and I talk to top management of all the big companies every day, and I try to only talk to the most passionate people, because that's where this stuff comes out. Stuff like, well, the world's a playground. I mean, don't take yourself so seriously. This is something that more and more people understand, because, well, at the end of the day, no matter how successful you are and how much you accomplish, if all of these things are empty, then what's the point? Then there is no point behind it. It has to be fun. It has to be engaging. You said it so wonderfully. As soon as it starts to feel like work, I'm done. Then there's no more point in doing it. And we need a lot more people just like really going down that path and, expanding their minds a little bit like that. Now, I have a last question I want to dive into. It's a bit of an up in the clouds one. So if you were a magician and you had this magic wand that you could just wave and make all kinds of things happen, and you had a wish, what would you wish for that could impact or multiply your impact at least 10 times on the organization, the industry, and the world?
So if I had a magic wand, I would love to change the bias in new technology, especially in artificial intelligence and in blockchain, because I believe that this is something that we are building a completely new world that is actually a very, a very accelerated version of the world we already live in now. And I would love the new world to be inclusive and to be, you can't say sharing, but maybe to be creative. And in order to be creative and to be mindful of the planet, it means a lot of different viewpoints. And what I see is that basically we are developing all this new technology, right? We are using it for predictive analytics. We are developing a whole new economy through blockchain, basically. And yet it still perpetuates the pictures and the beliefs that we have today. And for me, this is something that on the one hand worries me. On the other hand, I believe we need to get a grip on. And I believe this is something that can catapult the planet into a completely different place if we get a grip on this now. So that being one thing. And if I get a second tiny magic wand, maybe for the sake of this interview, then the other one would be what said before, to put the tools of managing your money into the hands of people in a way that they can really understand and use it as a powerful way to be the best they want to be, I think would make a whole lot of difference. Because as much as we might be talking about passion and purpose, every venture, every idea still needs funding. And I find that many people are struggling exactly with that. Men, women, especially women, but especially also the young startups and young people that are the future. They don't know where to go. They don't know where to start. And I think there is a whole industry that could make this a lot easier for everybody. So this is my big magic wand and my tiny one. Sorry for hijacking.
I love how you go outside of the boundaries. I love this always about entrepreneurs. I ask a question about one magic wand, and then everybody goes like, well, on the second and third. That's what I love about entrepreneurs as well. They see something and then they see another opportunity in what is already there. It's nothing but a mindset, and I love this. So really appreciate you being on the show. It was an incredibly deep interview and conversation. I'm going to link below this video to some resources to your LinkedIn profile, especially as well, so people can also connect and learn more about what you're up to. So Olga, thank you so much for being on the show. Really appreciate it.